Order. End of question time. Ministerial statement. Mr. Shanmugam.
Thank you, sir. So I will address some matters arising from my answer to Mr. Leong Monetized PQ 4359 on 20th of March. After the discussion in Parliament, Mr. Leong made a Facebook post about it on Monday night. Given the nature of some of his statements, which are serious misrepresentations, I had wanted to address them in Parliament yesterday at the earliest opportunity. But out of respect for Mr. Leong's bereavement over the passing of his mother, I decided to postpone, though his post was put up a few hours earlier. I also express my deepest condolences to him, and I'm sure members will join me in that. The matter I'm going to speak about arises from his post. Mr. Leong's actions are quite improper, as I will show. What he has done is wrong and contrary to the requirements of parliamentary procedure. On 20th March, I answered a PQ from Mr. Leong and Mr. Pereira. The answer was detailed. I specifically asked Mr. Leong to tell us which parts of the answer he disagreed with. He did not respond, and we moved on. Then that same night, Mr. Leong put up a Facebook post. He said several things, including that, one, my characterization of Mr. Lee Hsien Young and Mrs. Lee Suet Phen as having essentially absconded is inaccurate. Two, he also said that by disclosing the investigation into the Lees, Senior Minister Teo and I have risked turning Parliament into, I quote, a platform to color public opinion on criminal proceedings. These statements are a mixture of misrepresentation and inaccuracy and have to be dealt with. Mr. Leong makes these allegations and more, but he does not deal with the main points. The main points of the answer I gave on Monday, which Mr. Leong has avoided, are, first, the Court of Three Judges and the DT have said that Mr. Lee Hsien Young and Mrs. Lee Suet Phen had lied under oath and that there was dishonesty. Members can refer to the answer I gave on Monday. Sir, at this juncture, I would like to ask the member through you, does he agree that the Court of Three Judges and the DT have said that Mr. Lee Hsien Young and Mrs. Lee Suet Phen lied on oath?
Mr. Leong.
Speaker, well, that's fast. Okay. I think, Speaker, allow me enough time to ventilate, because sometimes I have to put the thing into context. Since I've been specially called back to face the minister. With regards to his question, I have read about the judgment and the opinion of the disciplinary tribunal and the Court of Three Judges, but I have also been told that the new allegations raised by the senior minister and ministers are actually new allegations, like perjury. Has it been established during the Court of Three Judges? I don't know. I'm not legally trained. For example, perjury. And then on Monday, the minister talked about absconding. So we asked, has a written order been issued? He confirmed only an email. Maybe he will give us more information afterwards.
Mr. Leong, I believe the minister has the rest of his statement. He's asking for a specific response to a particular position. You will have your chance to ventilate later.
Yes.
And the reason why we are doing this is that in Parliament, when there are issues being raised, we would like the issues to be debated fully here.
Correct.
And not in part, and then thereafter making statements outside, where then we don't want to, and that's why there's a need perhaps for us to discuss the issue now. So perhaps if you can respond directly to those questions, what your views are, and then allow the minister to finish his statement, and then we'll have ample opportunities for you to say what you need to say.
Yes, but Speaker, I hope you also understand that in this House,
Point of order. I asked a question. I'm sure member can have plenty of time to ventilate at the end. I asked a simple question. Does he agree that the Court of Three Judges and the DT have said that Mr. Lee Hsien Yang and Mrs. Lee Suen Fen lied on oath? That's all. If member can give me an answer, he can give it to me. If he can't, we will move on.
I think it is subject to legal interpretation.
Okay, if that's your position, then we allow the minister to carry on.
So, member does not know whether the Court of Three Judges and the DT have said that Mr. Lee Hsien Yang and Mrs. Lee Suen Fen lied on oath. Can I take that to be the answer? Can I ask that through you, sir, that he doesn't know?
He has said what he said. We can leave it to the rest to interpret. Minister, please continue. Or unless Mr. Leong have a response to that.
No, I know it has been said, but I think within the legal interpretation...
What has been said?
Is what you have said.
Thank you. Therefore, you agree that the Court of Three Judges and the DT have said that Mr. Lee Hsien Yang and Mrs. Lee Suen Fen lied on oath. Second, sir, can I ask through you, would the member accept that if they did lie on oath, that is possible criminal conduct?
Speaker, sir, that's why this whole issue is not about if. It's about if you want to raise a
Point
new...
of order again, sir. Member can talk about what he wishes at the end. My question is a simple one. If they lied on oath, is it possible criminal conduct?
Speaker,
He knows or he doesn't know?
No,
and
Speaker,
he'll move on.
can I say that I'm not going to answer the minister like answering in court. This is a legislative chamber. This is not a legal chamber. I have my way of answering.
Okay, we can respond quickly. What is your response to that? Or no response for the moment?
No, what I say just now, Speaker, is that you don't put in new if, what in this parliament. If you have if, what, let the court decide. That is what we are trying to drive at.
Thank you.
Minister.
Sir, one more question through you, sir. If there was possible criminal conduct, would member accept that that should be properly investigated?
Speaker, it is an if again. But for this question...
If I may, it's a question of process. If something
Yes.
like that happened, would that be? We're not ascertaining whether
Yes,
your
we
views,
are not
whether you
saying
think they're guilty or not.
Mr.
If
and
there
Mrs.
is,
Lee, yes.
should that? So that's a question.
Correct. If there's a criminal offense, of course it has to be investigated.
Now, that is the one point. The second point, Mr. Lee Hsien Yang and Mrs. Lee Suen Fen have left Singapore and have said they will not come back after being asked to assist in investigations. I said on Monday in my summary that they have essentially absconded from the jurisdiction. The facts have been stated in SMTO's answer on the 2nd of March and in statements issued by the police on the 2nd and 20th of March. On the 9th of June 2022, police met Mr. Lee Hsien Yang and Mrs. Lee Suen Fen and asked them to assist in investigations. They agreed to come for an interview. They said they will tell the police when they will be available. Police then handed them a letter providing details of the investigation and the interview. Mr. Speaker, sir, can I have your permission for a copy of that letter to be shown on screen, please?
Please do.
The blank spaces that members see were filled in by hand by the officer. So the form was given with details filled in. Now, I had said in my response to Ms. Lim on Monday that there was an email. Actually, this form was given, and there were email exchanges after that. Police then liaised with Mr. Lee Hsien Young on a suitable date over email, and both parties agreed on a date, which is 13th of July. On 13 July, the day of the interview, they sent an email to the police saying they would not be attending the interview. By that time, they had left the country. From what they have said to the police and what Mr. Lee Hsien Young has said since, it is clear that they have no intention of returning. After SMTO gave his reply in Parliament on the 2nd of March, Mr. Lee Hsien Young said in a FB post on 7 March that he has, I quote, been made a fugitive by his own country. I've asked for his post to be flashed on the screen. And on the 12th of March, he reposted an Instagram of his FB post that he is a fugitive. And he said in an interview with a foreign news outlet released on 8th of March that he is, quote, unlikely to return to Singapore, at least for the foreseeable future. He himself admits that he is a fugitive. To assist Mr. Leong in better understanding the dictionary meaning of fugitive, I'll flash it on the screen. And I'll just read two. From Merriam-Webster, a fugitive is a person who flees or tries to escape, such as a person involved in a criminal case, who tries to elude law enforcement, especially by fleeing the jurisdiction. Macmillan's definition, someone who has done something illegal and is trying to avoid being caught by the police. You can also look at Longman, Oxford, Cambridge. This is how Mr. Lee describes himself. He says that he has run away to avoid the police. So the member knows Mr. Lee Hsien Young well. He has said on social media that Mr. Lee is a valuable member of his party. They have posted many photos together. They have shared each other's posts. For all we know, they might be in regular contact with each other. So I would like to ask Mr. Leong through you, is Mr. Leong saying in these chambers that Mr. Lee Hsien Young will come back and cooperate with the authorities? A simple question. No need to ventilate. We can ventilate later.
Speaker, sir. Yes, Mr. Lee Hsien Young is a member of the Progress Singapore Party. But the real issue here we are discussing is about fairness and equality before the law. It's not about whether he's a member of the Progress Singapore Party or not, and whether every citizen is given fair treatment, equal treatment. Okay. Whatever Mr. Lee said in his post, when we name a person to have absconded, we must follow our criminal procedure properly. So if you have not issued him a written order, then your process has a problem. And it is, you don't have the right to say that he's absconded.
That is not the question I asked. I take it that member does not wish to say whether Mr. Lee Hsien Young will come back and cooperate with the authorities. And sir, there is nothing flawed with the process. Police have explained the process. And I repeat, both in this House and I'm prepared to repeat it outside, Mr. Lee Hsien Young has absconded on the facts. That's my position. That's consistent with what Mr. Lee Hsien Young himself has said, that he is a fugitive and you've seen the dictionary definitions. So let's not engage in false rhetoric.
Mr. Leong, yes.
I will carry on with my ministerial statement. Everyone, including Mr. Leong, knows that they have left the country, that they are fugitives, and they have told the media they are not returning to Singapore. They have absconded. So let's not hide behind a smoke screen of whether or not a CPC order was issued. They were asked to cooperate, and they've run away. And you can say they have absconded when they themselves know they are fugitives. That deals with the two main points I made. Let me now move on to the KOM matter, which member has posted about. I told the member on Monday I had explained the differences between KOM and the case involving Mr. Lee Hsien Yang and Mrs. Lee Suet-Pun, and why they are different. I had also explained in my answer on the 20th of March why in some circumstances, when some names are disclosed in legal proceedings, nevertheless, police may not release the names here. I invited him to point out so we can discuss which area of my explanation he does not understand or disagrees with. He did not respond. Let me address a fundamental point arising from what he said on Monday. He said there are double standards because the individuals in the KOM case are, I quote his words, actually guilty, close quotes. Sir, the member has parliamentary privilege to speak, but that has to be exercised responsibly. When we want to say that someone is guilty, I would like to remind all members to have a care. Mr. Leong has said that persons investigated by CPIB are, I quote, actually guilty, close quotes. That is making assertions against a number of persons that they are guilty of criminal offenses, that they've been found guilty of criminal offenses, when in fact they have not been found guilty. Not all the persons. The Cambridge Dictionary definition of guilty means responsible for breaking a law. So, sir, I will now invite Mr. Leong, through you, to either substantiate his statement that they are all guilty or withdraw his statement. One cannot, under the cloak of parliamentary privilege, make these sorts of statements about people. And if he does not withdraw, then, sir, we will consider what else needs to be done.
Speaker, may I ask the Minister, I actually was the first to raise the issue that whether the senior minister and minister should make such statements in this parliament. And now he's turning around and say that I have made certain statement. But I will answer his question first, and I hope he answer the question I've asked fully later. When I say these individuals are guilty, because this is based on the information that we've obtained about what happened overseas, in the overseas jurisdiction. What the Singapore court decision is, we know that the CPIB decided not to prosecute them. But at the same time, we also want to know not to prosecute. Does it also mean that in the stern warning letter, there is really, when a stern warning letter is issued, does it mean that there are actually sufficient evidence to show that they are guilty, but there are some reasons that the CPIB decide not to prosecute them?
I raise a point of order.
Yeah.
I had asked a simple question. Is the members saying they have been found guilty, all of them, in any court of law, or is he otherwise prepared to withdraw his statement? That's all I've asked. If he says he's not prepared to withdraw, we leave it and we follow up.
I have the impression that they are found guilty in the overseas court of law.
Can I know what is the basis on which the member says that he is under that impression that they have all been found guilty?
This is based on the case has been such a big case overseas and in Singapore, and the Capital Corp has paid such a big fine overseas.
Can I suggest that member works a little bit, finds out what he is talking about before coming here and making serious allegations? If I were to tell him that his statement is false, it is untrue to say they have all been found guilty elsewhere, certainly not in Singapore, is he prepared to withdraw his statement?
Speaker, if the minister say that they have not been found guilty overseas, then I'm prepared to withdraw my statement.
Well, for the record, one person pleaded guilty in the United States. To the best of my knowledge, no one else has been found guilty. And it is a very serious statement to come here, make allegations without doing your homework, and then propagate this sort of stuff all over the place. Really unparliamentary and not acceptable. And then to say, well, I've read, it seems to be big. Unfortunately, this is the thread running through all of Mr. Leong's statements. He doesn't do his homework, he doesn't check, he just says all sorts of things. And that is not the way debates ought to go. I'm glad Mr. Leong has withdrawn that statement. Next, and therefore the basis on which Mr. Leong says, oh, it's similar to this case, is not there. And I had given various other reasons why there are differences. He never dealt with any of them. Next, party liane. Sir, Mr. Leong said that my referring to party liane is an attempt to muddy the waters because the case is irrelevant. The member has ascribed an improper motive to me. The essence of his statement is that I used an example which is irrelevant and that it was used to confuse Parliament. If that is what he thought, if he had said it, I would have responded immediately. Sir, let me make this clear. We have no problem, I certainly have no problem with members challenging me, debating. The tougher the debate, the better it is, because the public then get a better sense of which opinion is better or where the facts are. So we welcome debate. We want debate. But when a statement is made in Parliament and the member doesn't respond and then goes out, particularly when I said, is there anything that you disagree with or you don't understand? And he keeps quiet. He keeps quiet and then goes out and says this. I explained why the party liane case is relevant. It is an illustration of a fairly similar case where we also released the identity of a person who was being investigated and where the member was present and did not object. So, sir, again, I'll have to trouble you. I seek a clarification from Mr. Leong through you. Why does he say the party liane case is not relevant?
Speaker, first of all, I want to clarify that, in my opinion, that even in our debate in this House, it is not necessary that all the time we have enough time and opportunities to refute every point, How long have we lasted?
Sir,
yes.
Point of order.
That's one point.
Point of order. Is he saying I'm not telling the truth when I invited members to respond to
Speaker,
me if we
I
disagree?
didn't say minister is not saying the truth.
We are
I'm saying
this
that
debate.
we may not.
Mr. Leong, pause. Minister, you
Yes,
complete the
I'm
statement.
just-
Mr. Leong,
Minister,
just
On
pause.
this debate, I expressly invited members' response. He was given adequate time. So let's not confuse the matters.
Mr. Leong,
Speaker, I disagree with the minister. I don't think the debate that we had on Monday had lasted long enough. I have some more questions.
Mr.
but-
Leong,
Yeah.
if I recall,
Yes.
questions were asked, you did not respond. You had every opportunity. If you had raised your hands to respond, the time would have been given you to do that.
Well, Speaker, you have a very good memory. Yeah? So, but okay, I answered.
No, maybe just to clarify, would that be a correct description? The question was asked, you did not respond to that.
It is not totally true. I think
So you did respond to the question?
I had the opportunity to talk 2 times, but I wanted the 3rd time to talk. But before I could
You didn't raise your hands to
before I could
further
raise my hand,
ask.
you went to another question already.
Well, the point is made.
So, yeah. So,
Sir,
Minister.
I specifically asked, and I do not recall the member raising his hands. We can look at the video, because these things are on video now. I give an opportunity to the member to correct himself. It would be accurate to say that we asked and member did not respond. Would the member agree, sir?
And if I may add, Mr. Leong, because are you alleging that I did not give you the time to respond? Are you saying that?
I'm saying that, you know, the debate could have been longer.
No. I'm asking a question because the questions were asked. I was watching whether you had responses. You did not raise your hands further. Would that be fair? Because I think I need to clarify for myself.
Yes.
Because
Well-
are you alleging that I'm not permitting you the
Well, Speaker,
space to respond?
sometimes when we are debating a issue like this, it needs time to digest. Sometimes it may take a bit of time to respond. Okay. So, but when the process, I mean the process just moves through so fast, there will be the.
Sorry, sir. Can I ask the member? We had a debate, exchange, answered his question. I asked him. He didn't put up his hand. And Mr. Pereira asked a follow-up question. And there being no further questions, the matter, Parliament proceedings moved on. That is what happened.
Okay.
Can I put that on the record? And can I invite member to agree that that is what happened?
Mr. Leong?
Speaker, I think in the sake of time, let me answer your question about Khao Liu.
No, I've just said this is what happened. That's correct, isn't it? We can check the video.
Yes, I think probably I was digesting the information at that time. Yeah.
So now I've asked, why does member say in his Facebook post that the party Liani case is not relevant? I want to know the substance. Why do you say it's not relevant?
Speaker, may I answer the minister?
Yes, please.
Yes, we did not object to the disclosure of Khao Liu because it was indeed in the public interest. And the case of non-disclosure of the KOM executives have not taken place yet. So our issue is about the non-disclosure of the KOM executives and the fair treatment between the KOM case and the Lee Hsien Yang
I'm asking
case.
something quite different. I'm asking a clarification from Mr. Leong on his Facebook post, which suggests that the party Liani case that I referred to is not relevant. And I would like to know from Mr. Leong why he says that it is not relevant. And if he doesn't know the answer, he can just tell us.
Speaker, I didn't say it is not relevant. I say it muddied the water.
Sir, through you, can I ask, when you say a case is used to muddy the waters, what you're saying is it is not relevant and it's used to confuse Parliament. That is in essence what muddy the waters means. So I want to ask you, sir, I want to ask through you, sir, again, does Mr. Leong accept that the Party Leone case is relevant?
Speaker, I do not accept that the Party Leone case is relevant for this debate because, Minister, let me finish.
I don't need anything else. He can speak
Minister,
later.
We can let Mr. Leong have a quick response. Why?
Minister, in that case, I'm not going to answer any more of your questions.
Mr. Leong.
This is not called.
Mr. Leong, I'm allowing you the space to respond, to elaborate on your response.
Oh, okay. Okay, so because the issue here is about the fairness of the KOM case and the LHY case, Lee Hsien Yang case. So you don't need to bring in a new case. When you bring in a new case, in a way, you're clouding the thinking of people.
Okay.
I didn't say it's irrelevant. I didn't say you're confusing Parliament. Minister, don't put words into my mouth.
Sir, may I ask what is the meaning of muddy the waters?
Speaker, now Minister is testing whether I'm from the lousy school or not.
No, I think, Mr. Leong, I think the reason is this. There are reasons why we have debates in Parliament, so we can debate the issues here, clarify, etc., etc. But when we carry on the debate in a one-dimensional way outside, I think the idea here is to continue that, because certain statements are made in your statements. I think the request is to let's clarify, to make sure that we tease out what exactly is the clarity
But
that the
Speaker,
public
I
ought to
must
know.
say, this kind of questioning is not what a legislative chamber should be.
No, I think if allegations
But
are
never
made in
mind, I will
Parliament,
answer
hang
your
on.
question.
If allegations are made in Parliament, certain statements are made, I think it's free for members to question and query.
Yeah, so I'm
So the
going to
question is, you made a statement out in a Facebook post about muddying waters, and I think Minister asking what exactly do you mean? Now, there's no allegation about what school you come from.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're from a very good school.
Yeah, but Minister already said that I'm saying this because it's irrelevant. I'm trying to imply it's irrelevant. I'm trying to say that he is confusing the Parliament, which I didn't say. You agree?
So the question he's
You agree,
asking is,
Minister?
what do you mean when you say muddying the
Okay,
waters?
then now I say
Yeah,
it.
okay.
You agree to that, Minister? I didn't say it's irrelevant. I didn't say that you're confusing Parliament.
Can I take it that you say the Party Leone case is relevant to the current discussion?
I didn't say it's relevant. I'm going
So
to
it
answer.
is neither relevant nor irrelevant. So what is it?
Okay.
And what does muddy the waters means?
Muddy in the water, in my understanding of the English, in understanding English, is that you cloud the real issues. That's why you're swimming in the muddy water, you know? You cloud the real issues because you introduce new things into the discussion.
You cloud the waters, you introduce new things so that people can't see the facts. That it's irrelevant and you're introducing it. That is what you're saying. Can I ask that question, sir, for the last
Yes,
time?
please.
Speaker, I'm not going to answer that.
Thank
Noted.
you.
Minister, continue.
Sir, this is a serious allegation. Will the member withdraw his allegation that Party Leone was referred to in order to muddy the waters? And will the member accept that it was quite wrong to have suggested motives on a false basis? Because I've explained why it is relevant. You can disagree here, but if you don't disagree, you keep quiet, you go out there, then I'm entitled to ask this and say it's not my intention to leave the matters be here if the member will not withdraw his allegation.
Sorry, Minister. Speaker, can I ask the Minister to repeat his question?
Minister, if you can indulge us.
I asked whether member is prepared to withdraw his allegation that Party Leone case was referred to in order to muddy the waters.
Speaker, I'm not going to withdraw that.
Thank you. Sir, Mr. Leong also asserted in his post that this is a private matter, quote, fundamentally a family dispute, and that it is not appropriate for Parliament, which is supposed to be a forum for debating issues of public interest, to discuss the issue concerning Mr. Lee Hsien Yang and Mrs. Lee Suet Fen. Members will recall issues relating to 38 Oxley Road were first made public by Mr. Lee Hsien Loong himself in 2017, then in a series of public statements. The ministerial statements in 2017, Parliament debates on number 38, all took place here in Parliament. Earlier this month, a question was asked in Parliament on 38 Oxley Road. We answered. I explained on Monday why the matter had to be answered in response to a PQ. I would like to seek a clarification from Mr. Leong, sir, on which part of the explanation does he disagree with? Through you.
Speaker, I understand that 38 Oxley Road is a matter that's of public interest. That I agree, and even if it was debated in Parliament before the time I come into Parliament, I have no issue with that. But when there are further developments to that, especially with regards to the personal behaviors of Mr. Lee Hsien Loong and Mrs. Lee Seok Fen, I don't think there is a need to raise those issues in Parliament again. That's what I'm trying to drive at.
Well, then that's a false basis, because the issue came about because there was a question that was raised and answers were given. So, sir, we have had this exchange today for one reason only. Parliament is a place for debates. Parliament is a place where we exchange viewpoints. And on the basis that we are all trying to do our best for Singapore, we try and, through the exchange of ideas and debates, try and get to a point. But when someone is in the House, doesn't raise a point, says that, well, he was digesting it, and then goes out and puts a Facebook post with both improper statements and untrue statements, then he is abusing parliamentary privilege, he is in breach of parliamentary rules, and that is why we have to pull it up and ask a number of questions. That is why I decided to ask the member a number of questions, because Parliament should not be brought into disrepute with this kind of conduct. Sir, we take a serious view of his conduct. This is not the first time Mr. Leong has breached the rules of parliamentary procedure. I'll give 3 instances. On the 25th of February 2021, Mr. Leong apologized in Parliament for misrepresentations he had made. On the 10th of May 2021, he again seriously breached parliamentary procedure and was told so. On the 8th of March 2022, he again had to apologize in Parliament for his improper and uncalled for comments. This has unfortunately become a pattern with Mr. Leong. In Parliament, we are prepared, as I said, for serious debate. Members can be as tough as they wish. And if anyone has questions, they can be raised as we are discussing, rather than keeping quiet here and then going out and casting aspersions. Let me read out Section 31G of Parliamentary Privileges, Immunities and Powers Act. No person shall publish any statement, whether in writing or otherwise, which falsely or scandalously defames or which reflects on the character of the Speaker or any member, touching on his conduct in Parliament or anything done or said by him in Parliament. You have your viewpoints, you think that someone is not telling the truth, you think that someone is being dishonest, you think someone is trying to muddy the waters, do that in Parliament. Let's have a debate. But you don't go out after keeping quiet here and try and mislead the public. That is the rationale for Section 31, and that is why we have to take a serious view. Parliament is a place for discussion. I agree entirely with Mr. Leong. but it's not a place for playing hide and seek. You debate here. In my view, he has breached Section 31. That's my view in the context of his post. And sir, through you, I ask that he deletes his post, accepts that he has misrepresented the position, and he should apologize. So I'd do that through you, sir.
When you're ready.
Speaker, I would only agree to delete my post if the minister point out specifically again what are the issues of my post. Muddying the water is not something that is an issue. Please elaborate again. How does that word muddy the water becomes an issue?
I went through it, but for his benefit, I will say that again. I explained why Party Liani case was relevant. In that case, the High Court had expressed the view that Mr. Carl Liu had not acted honestly and had lied on the witness stand, possible offense of perjury. He was being investigated. We disclosed that here before it was made public, before he was charged. In this case, Mr. Lee Hsien Yang and Mrs. Lee Swet Fen have been said to have lied on oath, possible offense of perjury. That was disclosed here too. It's directly relevant to, if member thought that that was not relevant, I'm happy for a debate. I'm not saying everyone has got to agree with what I said. Hardly. Disagree, explain, debate, and so that the public can have a better understanding if you think it is not relevant. But don't be a coward. Keep quiet here, go out and say, oh, it's an attempt to muddy the waters. That's casting aspersions on me, that I'm doing this to confuse. That's not acceptable. So that is just one example. The allegations against Senior Minister Teo and myself too. So I invite Mr. Leong to delete his post, withdraw the statements, and apologize, sir.
Mr. Leong.
Speaker, sir, I have given my explanation just now that muddying the water just means that in my post, I also say, let us concentrate on the differences between the Lee Hsien Yang and the KOM cases. That is what I mean. I am not casting the aspersions on the minister at all. So that case will actually cloud the judgment of other people. So let's concentrate on the differences between the Lee Hsien Yang and the KOM case. That is what the meaning of that. Is that not acceptable?
So I take it that member does not withdraw the statements. We will then proceed to consider what the next steps ought to be. If any time member changes his mind before a decision is reached, he can let us know. Thank you, sir. That's the end of my ministerial statement.
Are there any clarifications? I'm prepared to wait, Mr. Leong. Do you want to consider your response?
Speaker, so can I confirm that what the minister has said is that there are specifically two problems with my post. One is muddying water. Two is the risk of, the statement I make about senior minister and yourself about using this parliament to say certain things. Are those the only 2 points you are taking issue with my post? Then I want to explain the second point as well.
So I highlighted 2 points for illustration. That's what I would say.
Speaker, so my understanding of the processes, or of our legal processes, is that when you name someone to have committed perjury, or you say someone have absconded, and if the process that we have put in place through our legal system has not been strictly followed, and then you are saying those things in Parliament, isn't that something that we should think about as members of this House? That is the spirit of what this Parliament should be that I'm trying to write in my post.
So I don't propose to debate the post further, except to say this. By speaking about them having lied on oath, as the courts have said, or them absconding, we do not therefore prejudge their guilt. They will have to come back. They will have to be charged if the police see fit to charge, and the courts will have to decide. As I said in my answer on Monday, when we said that Mr. Carl Liu is being investigated for having lied on oath, the comments that were made, we're not prejudging his guilt. Likewise, when we say that he has absconded, when he himself has described himself as a fugitive, it's entirely in order. If he is charged for absconding from jurisdiction, he can then explain what he meant, and certainly our statements here are not evidence. Our statements here are meant to further our discussions in furtherance of what actually happened. It's a description of the process that they've run away without cooperating with the police. That's what absconding means, run away without cooperating with the police. It can also mean that they've committed an offense of absconding, fugitives from justice. But let's not split hairs here. When you have run away and you describe yourself as a fugitive, I don't think there's anything wrong in calling you an abscondee, particularly when you have said you will cooperate and then run away without cooperating. I didn't say that they have been charged and found guilty. So let's drop these pretenses. Let's just get to the point. But in any event, sir, unless there are any other clarifications on my statement, that's the end of my statement.
Mr. Leong.
Yeah, Speaker, I'll make this my last question to the Minister. So do the Minister agree that before the due legal process is being followed, members make statements about potentially there may be a criminal behavior of certain individuals? Is that acceptable?
We do that in a number of situations. When we say that people are being investigated, and I've given you a number of illustrations when we revealed that investigations are ongoing. When you say that investigations are ongoing, the implication with it is that certainly you are suspected by the police. It happens. Mr. Leong didn't think there was anything wrong with that statement being made about Mr. Carl Liu. He didn't think there was anything wrong about Mr. Chu when we said that he had attempted to flee the jurisdiction. That was before he was charged. We do that, I won't say frequently, but it has happened a number of times. And as I said, you look at it and, if the question that is asked here, or even outside, police have released that information. But nobody in their right minds will therefore think that, either the police or members here are therefore saying that they have been found guilty. The only person who has made that statement without basis is Mr. Leong, when he airily said they were actually guilty. I certainly will never say that. But that doesn't mean we cannot say so-and-so is being investigated. We have to look at the prejudice to the person, possible prejudice, and I explained in my answer why there was very little prejudice here to disclose that they are being investigated. Likewise, the fact that they've run out of jurisdiction. I mean, if you want, we can keep saying each time they've run out of jurisdiction and escaped from the police. We use a shorthand term, they've absconded. They say they are fugitives. What's the difference? But did anybody say that they have been found guilty? You do look at the prejudice that might be caused when you make statements. You need to be careful. But I explained in great detail why, there is hardly any prejudice. In fact, no prejudice in this case. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Leong.
Speaker, I hope this is the last question. So I have actually said in my post, I would not have taken issue with the disclosure of names in the Lee Hsien Yang case if names of the individual involved in the Keppel offshore marine case were also disclosed. So that is the crux of the matter I wanted to debate in this parliament. As a result, with regards to the Kao Liu case, I take it as normal to disclose in his case, especially when the case becomes so big and all that. But at that time, I did know that the government actually have two mouths. When it comes to the KOM case, he said, oh no, we don't need to release the name. So that gets me wanted to clarify that in this parliament.
So I've explained in some considerable detail the differences. Unless the member has a specific query or disagrees with my explanation, I don't know how I can answer further. I mean, I've explained all the differences, why the case is different. In fact, his reason for saying that it is the same, one of which is completely false, and he has withdrawn it. So if member has a specific reason for disagreeing with the differences I've pointed out, I would invite member not to make these allegations that people speak in this way or that way. I mean, let's keep to the facts. Don't be pejorative. Unless you can back it up.
Mr. Leong.
Speaker, I thought I have always been backing up what I've said so far. I explained to you what I mean by muddying the water. I explained to you why I disagree with the inclusion of Kao Liu's example. That when Kao Liu's case came out, we haven't got the KOM case, right? And by the way, I want to make one clarification. In my post, I did not mention that the 6 individuals are guilty, but it is from my parliamentary statement. Okay, so there are 2 different things.
So which is which?
No,
Did you say that the 6 of them are guilty or not?
No,
whether one
he
post
has
or the other?
withdrawn the allegation, and I did say, I think member pays attention sometimes and he doesn't pay attention sometimes.
If I may, did Mr. Leong, did you withdraw your allegation on the 6 members? Just to be clear. I wasn't sure whether I heard.
Speaker, if minister didn't ask me, I suggest you don't ask me.
Wow.
Sorry. So not to ask you that question. Ms. Indrani.
Mr. Speaker, as Leader of the House, I would just like to remind members to conduct themselves in a parliamentary manner, and the tone in which we address one another is important. I would therefore ask Mr. Leong to be mindful of that.
So I did say in my statement that Mr. Leong said this on the 20th of March. Here, that's not in his Facebook post. And he withdrew that allegation, which is false, by saying he didn't know the facts. As for the others, one of the problems with having a discussion with Mr. Leong is that he talks about KOM. I have explained the differences between KOM and here. And then he says, oh, but I've backed up, and he goes on to other things. So on KOM, I have said what the differences are, and unless he can tell me which part he disagrees with, there's really nothing much more that I can say. And I suggest we leave it at that, sir.
Mr. Leong.
I think, Speaker, I think it is very difficult for public perception or for the public to understand because I don't understand fully what the minister had tried to explain about the differences between the two cases. I think he raised basically three areas: public interest, prejudice, and having absconded. So having absconded, that one we already dealt with in quite detail. On public interest, I would think that KOM case is just as significant in terms of public interest, if not even more than Lee Hsien Yang case. So isn't that a condition that the KOM individuals should be disclosed? Secondly, about prejudice, the minister also went to great lengths to show that there's no prejudice in the Lee Hsien Yang case. But many of us would think that there's even less likelihood of prejudice in the case of the KOM case, when the individuals have already been widely reported overseas. So that is the doubt that an average Singaporean and the public of Singapore would have. You know, although you may technically explain some of the legal details here and there, but the public perception is something that we have to deal with in this House. That's why I disagree with what the minister have explained between the KOM case and the Lee Hsien Yang case.
Minister.
So I said a little bit more than that, but for Mr. Leong's and the members' understanding, I had explained in some detail the differences. He doesn't deal with all the differences, but in the KOM case, the investigations had concluded. An assessment had been made that guilt could not be established beyond reasonable doubt in court. No one was charged. To name the individuals who were investigated under these circumstances would be of prejudice to those individuals. The harm associated with naming someone when charges would not be pursued must be weighed. I would ask Mr. Leong and members to think about this carefully. Are we saying that in future, if we decide that a case cannot be made out against some persons who have been investigated, let's be clear. Are we saying that if a case cannot be made out, we ought to release the names simply because some of their names had been in the media or elsewhere, in the media or other places, in some other place? Are we saying that? Do members really think it is right to accept a principle that simply because names had been published elsewhere, we proceed to release them here, even when the agencies have concluded that they cannot be prosecuted. If Mr. Leong is saying that, let me know if that is the principle that you're suggesting. This is a case, KOM case, where the agencies have concluded that they cannot proceed with the case. Now, 5 individuals were named in the Brazilian court documents. But I don't know if Mr. Leong knows this, they were not the defendants in that case. And as far as I'm aware, no views were expressed by the court that they had engaged in wrongdoing. And in these circumstances, the general policy of not disclosing the names of the individuals who had been investigated applies. It applies to KOM and it applies to anyone else. And as I said, one person subsequently pleaded guilty in the US, the legal counsel. Then you assess, do you release his name alone and not the others? This is not a case of politicizing these matters. If you apply it here, then you must be prepared that in future, whenever some names have been leaked in the media elsewhere, or whenever their names have been mentioned in some context, not as defendants, no, the court doesn't express an opinion, their names are mentioned by some witnesses, and Mr. Leong, is he arguing for a principle, and I would like to hear from him, that in all such cases, as long as their name is mentioned by someone and is public, then when we investigate, even when we conclude that there is no case, we ought to release the names? Can I hear from him through you, sir?
Speaker, I think I'm not going to answer that question because I think to and fro, we know what the minister's stance is and the government's stance is that they are not going to release the names of the individuals. And
I am prepared to consider and ask police to reconsider if member says that's a principle and should apply to all future cases.
Speaker, that's not the principle I'm asking.
Thank you.
But
thank you. Now we know what the facts are.
But I'm saying that if these people in the KOM case has been widely publicized.
Sir, point of order. Member is repeating. I've asked him. I've put it on the table. If you say this is the principle, I will tell the police, please consider releasing. Yeah. He says that's not the principle.
Yeah, that's
and
not
rightly
the principle.
so,
but
because it is very wrong for people's names to be released after the agencies have already concluded that they cannot be charged. Sir, unless you are minded to allow a reventilation of matters that we have gone through over and over again, may I ask that that be treated as the end of my statement? Unless Mr. Leong has
Speaker,
something
Do you have a
new.
fresh perspective, Mr. Leong?
Sorry?
Do you have a fresh perspective to add rather than repeating the same point?
Yes, just one last statement, okay? I agree to the minister that we should not release the name, okay? When the case if the case is really closed. But we should also apply the same principle that individuals who have not even been subject to court proceedings, why are you releasing their names? So I want that principle to be upheld as well. So that's what I'm trying to say.
So that is why. So now we put aside KOM. Member agrees with me that the names ought not to be released. Thank him for that. Now let's move to the release of the names of Mr. Lee Hsien Young and Mrs. Lee Swet Fen. It's exactly on all fours with the Party Liani case and the various other illustrations of disclosure. And I would invite the member to go and read carefully what I've said. There are situations when you release, and I explained fully why it was released, and no member had an issue with that, other than Mr. Leong. Thank you, sir.
That's the end of it. Mr. Leong, no, that's not for you to respond. I have something to say. Can I just remind you, as illustrated, I've been more than tolerant, more than accommodative of you in the various occasions for you to speak up. Can I remind you that at the very least, let's retain the decorum of this in terms of whether you're addressing myself or other members. Is that clear?
Yes, Speaker. I
Thank
actually
you.
just
You can
want
sit
to...
down. Thank you.
Sorry, Speaker.
Order. Clerk
Sorry,
will now
Speaker.
proceed to read. Order. The clerk will now proceed to read the order of the day.
Speaker, actually, I want to extend an apology to
Leong.
you.
Yes.
I actually want to extend an apology to you.
In that case, quickly.
Yeah. But just before that, I mean, you say I silly just now?
Sorry?
Did you say I'm trying to say something silly?
No.
No. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. I apologize to you for what I've said just now, that regarding if the minister didn't ask the question, please don't ask the question.
Noted.
I sincerely apologize to you.